Hi.
Hi.
You know what tomorrow is, right? It's Christmas Eve.
It is. What's that mean, Natasha?
That means we're doing the Natasha and Debbie Show Christmas episode tomorrow. Not Sunday, tomorrow. So,
Don't miss it.
Yeah, we hope that you'll be there to watch it. Lean back slowly. And fade to intro.
Hey!
Hey, hi.
Welcome to the Natasha and Debbie Show.
Hello.
That's brutal.
Just two patriotic girls.
So please don't take us the wrong way.
Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Natasha and Debbie Show pre-Christmas edition.
That's right. It's Freaky Friday Day.
Freaky Friday.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's not untrue. I'm also dressed as a lumberjack today. And I've decided to annoy Debbie with this shirt. I'm going to wear it in as many episodes of the Natasha and Debbie Show from here out as possible. Before we get into today's video, if you like the content we put out, it'd be great if you hit the like button. And if you want to consider subscribing to the channel, that'd be kind of awesome too. So there's that.
But you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to. But it'd be cool if you did. I think we just said that the other day, the exact same thing.
Probably.
Repetitiveness. Yeah, tomorrow is our Christmas episode. We really hope that you guys will be watching, and we hope that you have a wonderful Christmas. We're looking forward to it. For first time I'm looking forward to Christmas in a while, so I'm very thankful for that. But hopefully the weather is good where you're at. It is not here. It is absolutely horrifically cold, well below freezing, and just
Bundle up.
Yeah. It's gonna be a rough one.
We may even have snow.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to, so we'll see how that goes. But today's video, we want to do something lighthearted today, since it is the day before the holiday weekend, and so
have some laughs and lighten it up a bit.
Yeah, there's something to learn about. We've been learning about all these things about you guys, so we're like, you know what? Let's learn some stuff about what they think about us.
Yeah, what do you think about us?
We're about to find out, because today's video is 7 myths British people believe about America. What do you believe about us? What do you think? And is this you? Do you believe any of these myths? We don't know. We have no idea what these are going to be, and we find that to be interesting, and it'll probably be funny. So let's find out together, and you can comment. Please wait till the end of the video, though, if you agree with some of these, or if you have your own different ones.
Yeah.
So let's find out.
I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to myths. Specifically, myths that British people, including myself at one point, believed about the United States of America. But it is amazing what 14 years of living in the United States will do to your understanding and your perceptions about this very country. For instance, I learned early on that they don't have Cornish pasties, and I learned slightly less earlier on, so later, that Michigan has them. But I don't live in Michigan, so one way or another, I still have to have them imported. A quick reminder that if you're not subscribed to the...
So thank you. And thank you, Lauren.
I don't know why I did. It was something I was searching on the internet, and then I saw that Michigan had them.
Maybe you looked it up before, like where.
No, I really did. It was something else random that it showed me Michigan had those.
And why Michigan?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
It's Michigan.
Exactly. Oh, where did it?
But these myths go way beyond the absence of quintessentially British food. And so now that I've lived here for about a seventh of a century, it's time to outline some of the myths that us British believe about America and Americans.
Bring it on. No, yeah,
this is a funny one because I didn't tell.
We totally do. We all do.
Yeah,
monster houses.
They're mansions.
No one believes that, right? I'm just okay. Let's see.
Television gives us this notion that Americans do all live in giant houses like the McAllisters do in Home Alone, but it's not entirely the case. Sure, I mean statistically, American houses are on average larger than their UK counterparts. There are a number of reasons for this, which I outlined in this video. But to say that all Americans live in really large houses is a complete fabrication of anything resembling the truth. And I was a good example of this before I became a YouTube sensation. Because when I first moved to Chicago, we had to do things on a budget. Between me and my wife, we weren't making a great income, and this is a major city, so we had to sort of settle for an apartment whose dimensions were 300 square feet. And for those of you who don't know, that's about the size of a shoebox, roughly. You know, we had to leave our shoes outside the door. That's how small it was. And it is worth reiterating, I think, that the cost of living in the United States does fluctuate massively across the country. When I lived in Indiana, just one state over, we were paying about $530 a month. That's basically unheard of in Chicago. And it's certainly unheard of in New York City, which of course was the city in which the show Friends is set. And I think it's shows like that gave us this impression that Americans were all living in big apartments.
Yeah, that ain't true.
Which is funny. I mean, the apartments they show in Friends
Aren't even real or sets, for one thing.
True, but they're just so big, they would be so expensive.
Multi-million-dollar apartments.
And no wonder they had to all live together.
It's just a misconception because, I mean, there's all different types of housing here. All right. Each street has thousands of houses. What? This isn't myth? Okay. Again, let us know if you think any of this yourselves, or if you have. Interesting.
And speaking of houses, I was alerted to a tweet recently from a British person who couldn't believe that American addresses go way up into the thousands.
Oh.
And their belief on this was that every street in the United States has thousands of houses on it. And this was a belief that I used to have. Because the country is absolutely massive, so you almost expect it to house that many people. But the thing is, there are way fewer people in this country per square mile than there are in Britain, so it doesn't add up. And that's when I got looking into it. And in a previous video, I outlined it doesn't really work like that. On any given street, they don't start at the number 1 and then end at 10,000. No. Often, and it's the case here in Chicago, you'll usually have a string of houses, for example, all in the 6,000s on a given street. And that's because it's about 6 miles from the center of downtown.
I want to know where they're showing these photos from, because this is not a typical American neighborhood. And he showed something similar to this earlier. Typically in America, where our houses aren't sitting on top of each other like they are in this photo.
Well, he did say this was in Chicago, so it's
well, he said that's where he lives.
Okay,
that doesn't mean that's where this photo is from. That's what I'm saying. So
it's definitely a planned out, fabricated neighborhood where everything was just strategically planned.
We call this a prefab neighborhood, where every house is like almost identical, but typically you're going to have a lot more space, you know, in between homes. Significantly more space.
1 mile in from that, they're all 5,000s. Another mile, they're all 4,000s, etc., etc. Now, not every city in the US does it from the center of the city. It could be from another part of the city or just some other central point. But that's sort of a general rule for how the numbering works on US houses. This one comes up again and again, that the United States is such a young country that it basically doesn't have a history. And I
just have to say this. One probably gets on Americans' nerves more than you have any idea. Always being told how, oh yeah, we have houses older than your country. Well, that's just not true for several reasons. The Native Americans were here for a very, very, very long time, and they have a very extensive history. I've never said this on our channel, but I do have Native American ancestry, via both my parents. So that's something that I take into consideration too. And a lot of Americans do, in fact, have Native American ancestry. You don't, which is weird. Nope. It's weird that you don't. But you're more Italian, German anyway. So that would be why. But no, I mean, the Native Americans' history is American history. So I think that people need to think about that too when saying things like, oh yeah, you know, our countries are old, you know, your country's so young. Yeah, no, we have a history. I just don't think it's looked at and not taught much in other countries. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I thought of this perception of America to be quite a lazy one. Because even if you go back to 1776 through to the present day, yes, it is a short amount of time in comparison to the history of Britain, but think about all of the insane things that happened in that period. And even if you ignore all that, there's one thing that we tend to forget because we don't get taught it very deeply in Britain, and that is the thousands of years of native history that happened before we even turned up.
I did not expect him to bring that up. That's why I did my little thing there. But I am very impressed with him for that. I just loved him more. No, I appreciate that.
And that is the thousands of years of native history that happened before we even turned up. I was absolutely blown away, not literally, that would be weird, when I went to Cahokia Mounds here in Illinois. Many, many hundreds of years ago, Cahokia Mounds used to be a native city, and it had about 20,000 people, which might not sound like a lot by both American and British standards, but back in the day, that was more than London. And I once read about this volcano eruption that happened in present-day Oregon a few thousand years ago. And this eruption was witnessed and recorded by Native Americans who were in the area at the time. And long story short, they basically saw the origins of Crater Lake, which is absolutely huge.
Isn't that gorgeous?
This one is embarrassing for me because
the US and Canada are basically the same. Nope. We love Canada. But Canada's kind of hilarious because they're like, Canada's like living in the apartment above America, which is like, it's like saying like Canada lives in the apartment above a meth lab. Nothing ever happens up there.
Yeah, they're quiet.
But we're so different too, except for our love of buffalo plaid.
Mm.
Yeah, we share this love. If you don't know, that's what we call this kind of color and print. But no, it's very different. As you should know, you guys know some things there, but it's not the same. And
yeah, we're not.
Yeah, we'll just let Lawrence talk about it. I'll shut up now.
Years ago, I believed that Canada and the United States were basically the same country. And the reason that I believe that is, number one, I was 12, so cut me some slack. Number two, my only sort of exposure to both countries was through the people, was through the way they spoke. And to my young ears, which couldn't yet differentiate these two accents, Macho Man Randy Savage and Bret Hart basically had the same accent, just with an entirely different timbre. And that's all I had to go on. And I think it's what a lot of British people have to go on, because I still occasionally see those comments. Oh, what is the difference between Canada and America? Or is it essentially that one has Mounties and the other doesn't? And it's only since I moved here that I've become super aware of the substantial difference between the two countries. Completely different healthcare systems, completely different food, completely different use of English. Right, in Britain, we call it the loo. In America, they call it a restroom. In Canada, they call it a washroom.
Yeah,
and I've seen all manner of different examples of that kind of thing. In America, they don't celebrate Boxing Day. In Canada, they do. The Canadian dollar is different to the American dollar. In some ways, they go with British English in places that America doesn't. And now that I'm older and I've listened to some...
And I'm going to pause him right there because he's absolutely right about that. There are so many differences, but the accent thing is interesting because there are people that have a very strong Canadian accent and those that do not. There are people in parts of America, like not far north too much, but like Minnesota, with accents that are similar.
Yes.
And other places as well. But then there are some very famous celebrities that we find out sometimes, like, wait, they're Canadian? I mean, I can't think of any off the top. Pamela Anderson, it's an old reference, but like I was shocked to find out Shania Twain, the country singer. There's a lot of different people that I was like, wait, what? They're Canadian? Ryan Reynolds, they're, you know, there's a lot of people that it's like really surprising sometimes to find out about. Jim Carrey, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway.
Some of the regionalisms throughout the United States, even the way Americans speak is different to how Canadians speak. I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But these differences certainly go way beyond how the two countries pronounce the word about.
Don't get mad at me, Canadian
I've touched on this before, but I couldn't really do about.
We are not loud people. Why do people keep thinking Americans are so loud, Debbie?
I don't know why they think we're so loud.
Didn't expect that from you. Who else did not expect that from her?
Because not all of us are loud.
Hey, you'd be surprised in our home.
Shh, don't tell my secrets.
Yeah. Y'all think I'm like this
I'm
all the time?
shy, quiet little girl.
She wants you to think this. Y'all think I'm like this. I'm not. Am I?
No, you're not always
I'm really not. Americans are loud. I've heard this before, so I'm going to believe that you guys probably all think this too. What's wrong with being loud?
I've touched on this before, but I couldn't really do a video without including it in this list. This perception that Americans are loud and boisterous. Yeah, and I can understand on some level where that comes from, because I think the way Americans speak, it comes from a different part of the throat. So it's a bit more projected, right? Whereas us Brits, it's more sort of, I don't know, understated a lot of the time. I think another reason that we think Americans are loud is how they present themselves in films. There might even have been a time in my life where I thought all Americans were loud just because Jim Carrey was.
Canadian.
He's Canadian, isn't it?
See,
he is Canadian. Hilarious. And culturally speaking, I definitely have found that Americans speak at a higher volume when they're in restaurants together. But there are so many other examples of the opposite being true.
Loud.
On match day, after we've had a pint or six, you know, we're singing the songs of our team who we love because they happen to be situated in the town that we were born in. And it's just what we do when we leave a nightclub, which, you know, I haven't done in 20 years. But when we did, you know, I'd be on the street yelling at traffic cones, because that might have just been me. But what I'm saying is, when we get drunk, we very much give Americans a run for their money. There's a loud person in all of us, right? And once we free ourselves...
Yes, there is. And we've talked to so many different people in the UK via Patreon, via Facebook Lives, and y'all are just as loud as anyone else over here.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I have not noticed a quieter voice or a quieter person necessarily. I mean, it's an individual thing, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say our nation is louder. I can see how I come off that way on YouTube videos. But again, I'm not like this all the time. I mean,
we're here to entertain. So.
Yeah, and we have to speak up for the camera. But yeah, I mean, I talk a little bit more than Debbie does on the videos, but I'm telling you, not at home.
Do you believe that?
In the comments, let us know if you believe it. I'm telling you, it's true. Look at that smile.
Ourselves of our inhibitions, we can let out all of the decibels we want. That's not a call to action. It's merely an observation.
We know what that means. I'm gonna let him go on.
This is only funny, not because of the image of Americans walking around with bomb bags on.
Yeah,
but
you remember what the fanny word means there, right?
Yep.
Which remember, it doesn't mean that here. It means but. It means but in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why this is on a list, because with minus the resurgence of the, I'm going to say bum bags, so y'all don't laugh. I'm going to say it, fanny packs.
They haven't been around in years.
Minus the resurgence that happened a couple of years ago, which I think died again already. Thank God. Those were like only popular in the 90s, and you wouldn't catch me dead wearing one of those, nor Debbie.
No. Didn't own one then? Don't own one now.
No. So, but why is this on the list?
Because we call them bomb bags and you call them fanny packs, and it's bloody hilarious. It is also partly the visual. Because bomb bags have never been cool, but this notion, which I occasionally read, that Americans are just always walking around wearing one, is very laughable, especially as somebody who's lived here 14 years.
Yeah,
so it's quite dumbfounding, this one. I'm not saying that all British people think this way, but the ones that do, I'd be very interested to hear, do they think that way because they met an American in 1994 and they just held on to that belief? Or are American tourists still wearing bomb bags?
I'm going to go with no, it's the 94 thing. Because again, there was a resurgence for like a year or like 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
Like right before COVID hit.
Yep.
All these young kids. That's not going to live. I am not. Watch yourself in the comments. No, but these like teenagers were starting to buy those again. And I'm like, why are you wearing these things?
I know. My own nephew had one.
Yeah, I know he did. And I judged him too. I'm like, take that off. But other than that, they haven't been a thing since the 90s. And we made fun of each other for wearing those things, didn't we?
We did?
Well, not us, because we didn't wear.
I mean, do people carry cash? But I don't. I can tell you this, I don't have a bomb bag / fanny pack radar, right? I am not constantly surveilling the populace to see whether they do or do not have a fanny pack. But my feeling is, I don't remember seeing one in a while. So I think this is one very time-specific stereotype that can now be laid to rest, all right?
I still don't know if that's even true. Don't say autumn.
And yes, I thought I'd include one that...
We really don't.
No, we don't.
It's regional. Just like anything else in our vocabulary. We say fall where we're at. And I know other people that live in our area that say autumn. It's more like a posh word for us here.
Right.
And it's also pretentious. It's just different. Nothing bad about it.
It was quite topical, not just because we are in the autumn, but also because I mentioned this fact on my YouTube short yesterday. Now, while for reasons that were laid out in that YouTube short, Americans prefer the term fall, I was surprised to find that the word autumn was pretty common among Americans. I don't know if this is a recent thing, like the whole country just woke up one morning and watched Lost in the Pond and thought to themselves, yes, we're changing things now. Or if it's just sort of always been here as an alternative to fall. And you might be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, aren't there many surprising word alternatives that Americans use that Brits don't know about? And the answer to that is yes. I merely brought this one up so I could make that very point. This is undoubtedly a pandemic era thing, but I've seen an increasing number of Americans using the word jab to mean shot. I once worked with an American colleague who liked to use the word bonkers. So in part because of the internet, just as Britain is taking on quite a few Americanisms, I think the same is true in reverse, and it will be very interesting to look further into those details. And those are just a handful of myths that some Brits believe about America and Americans. Let me know in the comments some of the myths that...
Well, that's all. Okay. I had fun with that, though.
Yeah, that was great. That was a good list.
Interesting to find that out. I don't know how many people actually believe those. Maybe they did at one time. I don't know if they do now. Let us know. Because some of those were surprising to me.
They were. So I have to ask, since it's a bum bag, do you actually wear it in the back on the bum?
Well, most people here did back when those things were around. Not in the front anyway.
But then, you know,
They don't wear them. They have common sense.
it was too risky to have stuff stolen out of there. So
That's true. That's why people turn around.
that's why
Yeah.
that's one around the front.
That's. I thought some of those were interesting. I would love to hear yours in the comments more than anything else.
Yes.
Please let us know what are some myths that you've thought about Americans or America in general that prove to not be true. That is what we would love to know. That'd be fun for us to read those comments.
And it'd be fun for everybody else to read through.
I think so too, because we'd love to know them. Let us know if you liked the video. Click the like button if you did, guys. We'd appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. Again, we will be back tomorrow because
That's
it's Christmas Eve.
Don't forget.
Yeah. And we're hoping to give you a good Christmas start with us.
That's right.
So please tune in tomorrow and be with us for Christmas Eve at some point, whatever time you feel like it. And we hope to give you guys a good start off to the holiday. We're looking forward to it. So thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you guys as always. And love like jazz.
Be as strong as Tyson.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.